Go Country listeners, it's Cyrene, back for another episode of Cyrene Properties right here on Go Country 105. And today we're going to be talking about lending. And we have Cam.
What's up, everyone? Happy Sunday. This is a question we get a lot about lenders, so I'm really glad we're finally doing this show.
Yes, it was time. Have you been wondering about loans? Like, do I need 20% to put down for a house? Do I need to have good credit? Are interest rates still low? I'm going to answer these questions for you today, so stay on board with us. I know that it's maybe a little bit of a dry topic for some of you, but for others, if you're thinking of buying, or maybe you're thinking of selling or refinancing, or selling and buying something else, like what are your options right now? After 2008, things changed a lot in the lending industry. A lot of rules got tightened up. A lot of things happened after that. But
why? What happened? I think we should give a little backstory.
Crashed.
Yes, but why did the market crash?
Because people were lending subprime loans, all kinds of, basically you could put in an application with your dog's name on it and just state how much income you made, and they would give you a loan.
Wow. So a lot of people ended up with loans they probably couldn't afford. Yes,
and then a lot of people were also using their homes like ATMs because they were able to get cash out refis up to 100% of their equity. So then when the market had a downturn, everyone was like, oh, it didn't hurt people to foreclose on their homes because they already had taken the money out. So their house now was worth less than what they had paid for it.
Oh.
But the markets go up and down, right, guys? So let's say, just a side note, right? Let's say, for example, you bought a house today and in 2 years from now, the market goes down a little and it's worth a little bit less. As long as you're gonna stay in your home for a little while, or you're maybe gonna rent it out, we're in Southern California, over time, the price is always gonna appreciate, right? But what happened was basically herd mentality, right? A lot of people, they could still make their payments, but they saw their house was not worth what it used to be, so they didn't have any equity, so they went ahead and foreclosed or just let them go. So
shouldn't they have just rode the wave until it came back?
In my opinion, yes. If they couldn't make the payment because they signed up for a loan they couldn't afford, then that I understand. They probably didn't have much of an option in that respect. But if they could make the payment, so I bought a house in 2008. My first house I bought in 2008.
Wow. And
I bought it right as the market was on its way down. So I bought a little bit lower, but then the market went down even more after that. But what I always tell my clients is buy what you can afford, because markets are volatile. Real estate market is, fairly safe investment, but things happen, right?
Sure.
So I just wrote it out. And while a bunch of my neighbors were foreclosing, I thought to myself, why would I ruin my credit for the next 5 to 7 years? Doesn't make any sense. Just because my house isn't worth it. Yes, it was very smart, because then 5 to 7 years later, I bought another house.
Well, you were able to, you sold it, right?
Oh, well, I just sold it recently because of that whole tenant situation. If you guys don't remember that, you can tune in. I have it up on my YouTube. Or you can always call me, 1-800-440-7566, and I can give you some tenant horror stories one-on-one.
People like story time.
They do.
So I love this show because, especially for the first-time home buyer, the thought of a lender is almost intimidating. It's a little bit scary because you're saying, what if I can't qualify? Are there going to be hidden costs? Who pays closing costs? These are all things I think first-time home buyers have questions about.
Totally. So first and foremost, what I would like to say is that when you are working with a real estate agent, the real estate agent does not choose your lender, okay? You don't have to use who the real estate agent refers. However, we often know who is good, right? Those of us who do enough business know who's good. If you have a good real estate agent, then they should, definitely have a referral for you. My recommendation would always be to get 3 pre-approvals.
Oh.
Because this is why. Because you're gonna get your credit run, right? But within 30 days, if you're getting it run for the same thing like that, it's not gonna ding your credit.
Only once, right?
Yeah.
Got it.
Because the credit bureaus know you're shopping. So because the credit bureaus know you're shopping, you likely aren't gonna have an issue getting your credit, dinged too bad.
I just thought you needed 1 pre-approval. I had no idea that you should get 3.
You don't need 3, but it's not a bad idea to shop around. And one thing I do differently than a lot of agents, because some agents have, I don't know, we have relationships with lenders. Like, it's a super important relationship, and it's probably the most key relationship of all the people I work with. Insurance agents and title reps and everything. I would say the lender relationship is the most key. And the reason for that is because if they can't close and get you the house, then I just ran around all day and night trying to find houses. You're going to be frustrated. And I want a lender who's going to make sure that they check everything up front, make sure you're qualified, make sure they give us the honest truth about what you can and can't purchase, and then go from there, So I do work with a few different lenders, and the reason I do that is because not all lenders do the same things. So I have a lender with great home buyer programs for first-time home buyers, but it just depends on your profile, so to speak, right? So the first thing I do when I'm sitting down with a client is, and this is why my lenders love me, is because I basically do a pre-qualification. I'm going to sit down with you. I'm going to find out how much do you make, what's your FICO score, how much savings do you have. I'm going to ask you if you have any credit card debt. I'm going to ask you about student loans. I'm going to ask you about a million different things as far as your finances go. It's not because I'm super nosy and a stalker. It's because I want to make sure we pair you with the right lender. And I don't just work with one. Some agents will just work with one because they have that relationship where they're like, okay, well, this guy's helping me pay for marketing, or they're doing whatever. Because, sometimes lenders and agents can co-market together, and then they can split the cost, right? This is completely legal to do that.
But kickbacks are not legal.
Kickbacks are not. No,
okay.
They're not. Referral fees are acceptable if the agent happens to have their NMLS license, which is the license for also to do loans. Then they can legally get a referral fee from a lender. If they do not, though, they cannot get kickbacks. But they can do like co-marketing and stuff like that, co-branding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's say the first process when you want to buy a home, let's say for the first time home buyer, do they call you first, or do they attempt to find a house they want? Do they find the lender first? What should they do?
I prefer they call me first. The reason for that is because in my particular instance, I know what I'm doing, and I know enough about loans to know, what might be the best type of program for you, or what might be the best route, and who the best people to go to are for those pre-approvals. Like, for example, if you have a bank that you are already well established with, and you probably should get a pre-approval from that bank. I work with a few different lenders, one of which is the top lender in the country.
Oh, wow.
He does about 100 loans a month. Shout out to Brian Minkow at Homebridge Financial. I wish you were here today, but we'll get you soon enough. Yes, we will. So he's so busy closing loans. It's been hard to get the guy on the show. But one reason I do use him for loans, for like my quote unquote regular clients, is because when I go and write an offer and it has his name on the pre-approval letter, because he is well known, a lot of people, it's in this market, it's more likely for their offer to get accepted.
So he has clout, is what
he has clout.
Okay, so it is kind of who you know.
It is, and other agents know that, and so sometimes when agents will see these pre-approval letters from these big banks, we've had good and bad experiences. Sometimes the process is a nightmare because they're late, or they don't know what they're, like someone walked into a guy sitting in the bank, one of those guys that sit in the lobby or whatever, and they just are not great, right? So sometimes, and I've also had great experiences though with some of these big banks.
Does the lender get paid through this transaction, or no? It's not a separate fee? I don't quite understand.
The lenders get paid like an agent. When it closes, they get paid.
Okay.
So lenders are typically not hourly people. They might get like a base salary, and then they get their commission, if you will. Yeah. But most of them are strictly commission.
So who is that part of the closing cost fee?
Yes and no. So it's basically, it depends on where they work. It depends if they're their own broker or where they work. But there's usually any lender, any loan, you're gonna have like an underwriting fee and a processing fee. But then the way the lender gets paid is on the back end. Like, I have one lender who only gets paid once the loans are sold off to investors. So he doesn't get paid for the transaction, he only gets paid once it's sold off to the investors.
Oh.
Sometimes they get paid as, from their financial institution, whichever one they work for. Once it closes, they get paid.
So, okay, we meet with you, you go over and you decide I would be best with so-and-so as a lender.
Yes.
What happens next?
Then I will make an introduction between you and the lender, and then the lender will contact you and also send you a list of paperwork that they need in order to get you pre-approved. Here's where a lot of people get kind of, people can get kind of iffy, okay? Because they'll just want to know, well, how about if I just tell you everything and then you tell me how much I can get and then we go shopping? It doesn't work like that.
How long does a pre-approval process take?
It probably should take anywhere from, 1 to 3 days.
Okay, so relatively quick.
Yeah, once you get all the paperwork in. But they're going to ask you for the standard stuff they're going to ask you for if you're like just, regular kind of run-of-the-mill loan is going to be 2 years tax returns, 2 months bank statements, last 2 pay stubs, any like if you have other houses, they'll want to know how much your mortgage is and stuff like that on that. And that's about it.
What about debt, like credit cards, student loans? Will they want that initially or not yet?
They're going to run your credit. So a lot of times people will say, oh, I don't have any debt, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. But that's why we always run credit, because they, what Credit Karma says and what actually is your score are 2 different things.
Why is that?
Same reason Zillow doesn't know how much houses are worth, I guess. It's not, I think also Credit Karma is not pulling from all 3.
Right, I think that it's just one or
And
something.
yeah, lenders have their score. Like when you go to get a car, the score is different. When you get a loan, it's different.
Oh, okay.
So you need to pull credit. People don't like to pull credit because they go, well, I don't want my credit score to be affected. Well, do you want to lose your dream home because you didn't get pre-approved? And do you want to work with an agent who's not that competent because they're taking you out to see houses without a pre-approval?
Do you take people out without a pre-approval?
Rarely.
Right.
If they're paying cash.
We love the people paying cash, right?
Yeah. Shout out to all you people paying cash. 1-800-440-7566.
Call Cyrene. Yep, she'll take care of you.
Yeah. So, look, it's not for me, guys. It's more for you. If you go out without a pre-approval, it's like, you don't know what, I don't want to get a client's hopes up on a house that they maybe can't afford. If they're thinking, oh, I did the online calculator, so I know. Well, the online calculators often don't include interest. They include principal and interest a lot of the time, but they don't include tax, insurance. If you have mortgage insurance,
HOA.
Yeah, they're not
PMI.
calculating exactly. So I think it's best that you know ahead of time, hey, this is how much I can put down, this is how my max approval amount, this is what my payment's gonna be. Because look, maybe you get approved for $1 million, but you don't want to pay the payment on $1 million, right? So you're like, okay, well, this is where I want my payment to be. Then we kind of reverse engineer, well, this is the price point we need to be at, so that you're not out there looking for homes you don't want to pay for and then having buyer's remorse and then calling me later and being like, I don't know what I did, or it being 2008 again and you're, foreclosing on your house because you can't pay it.
I think the problem is that it's a business transaction and it's also an emotional transaction, because you start to picture your house, your life, your memories, your family in this property, which is just an inanimate thing. It's a property, but we put so much emphasis on our home and how we feel about it, but yet it is a business transaction. Mm-hmm. It's very simple. You need to qualify for this, you need to pay this, and it needs to be done in a timely manner before, and there might be other bidders, there might be all these things. So it really seems like kind of a miracle that it happens at all, because there's a lot of things happening at the same time.
Yeah, I hope that if people knew how many different moving pieces were happening in the background during the home buying process, they wouldn't believe it, because it's between escrow, the agent, the lender, title, insurance people, all these different things, you know, and just the lender alone, they have the underwriter, the processor, the appraiser. I mean, there's so many pieces to
The
this.
stars need to align. That's what it seems like.
And that's my job. I will make them align for you. So that's one big thing that a real estate agent should be doing, you know, and any good agent will be that conductor. They'll be that project manager.
So on that note, I think we should take the client voicemail because it kind of has to do with what you're saying right now.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so I'll read it to you and then you can answer.
And thanks guys for sending in your voicemails. If you guys have questions, feel free to call me 1-800-440-7566. I've gotten some messages in my DMs, which were also really great. Cyrene properties on Instagram, and same thing on Facebook. If you want to DM me, go ahead, ask your questions there. Or again, like I said, you can call.
Okay, so they didn't leave their name, but I signed an agreement with a real estate agent to sell my house. I feel he is doing a poor job of getting my house sold. I thought this was a hot market. Can I fire him?
Ooh. My first question would be, did you listen to them when they suggested what you should price it at? And if you did not, and you priced it too high, then it's possibly not on the agent. It's more on you for not listening to the agent. I hate to say that, but oftentimes that's what I see in this market. If a house isn't selling, it's because it's overpriced.
Okay, that makes
So,
sense.
assuming it is not overpriced, assuming that it's priced right and everything like that, you know, did this agent take professional photography? Did they do all the steps that they should have done in order to get it on the market? Does it look good on the MLS? Is the description written, you know, in a professional manner? Those kind of things, I don't have that information, so it's hard for me to be like super specific. But let's say that the agent didn't do a good job. They took cell phone pics. They're like just kind of not answering their calls. They haven't had any open houses. They're just kind of maybe it's a little overpriced. Maybe they gave you a poor recommendation on the price and you went with it and it was wrong. Because there are a lot of agents out there who will tell you whatever you want to hear just so they can get the listing and then hit you up for a price reduction 3 weeks in. I've had that happen. I went on the listing appointment last week and the lady's like, she just appreciated my approach. She'd interviewed 3 people and she appreciated ours because I told her, look, this is what we should list it at. They wanted a certain amount and I was like, we can shoot for that, but we should start at this price and try to bid it up. I just don't see it. Just the comps didn't justify it.
Okay.
So anyways.
But contractually, can you fire an agent?
Technically, no. So
Really?
technically, once you've signed that listing agreement, the agent has the listing for the time frame that's in that on that contract. You signed a contract.
And what are the general time frames in which you're usually contracted to sell a house? Is it like 3 months, 90 days? Does it go by days, months?
It's negotiable. I typically will do 4 months. In this market, I'll do 4 months, which is probably more time than I need, but you know, if something happens, like maybe we fall out of escrow or whatever, which we, you know, hopefully we won't, but sometimes these things are not avoidable. So I usually will ask for 4 months. I used to do 6, but in this market, not so much. So let's say, for example, they got you in a 6-month contract. You can request them, you can say, I want to cancel, right? You can tell them, take my house off the market. I don't want to sell it anymore and stuff like that. But if this agent has brought you buyers at the price that you listed the house for, and you didn't take those offers, technically, they sold your house and you can, you know, technically owe them commission.
Oh, wow.
My opinion on this is the following. If a client wants to cancel, with me, then usually what the case has been is like something happens in their life. So they can't find a house to buy, you know, mom gets sick, they have to move her in, or they get sick or something happens and they don't want to sell anymore. I go ahead and sign a cancellation and tell them, you know, they don't owe me anything or whatever, even though it does cost me money to put a house on the market, right? I've spent marketing costs and photos and all this other stuff, right? But for the most part, if that happens, I don't ask for any money back. I just go ahead and send the cancellation. But now if it's the case where I've had it happen also where I was able to, you know, I've sold the house 5 times over list price and the seller was just kind of,
Why did they choose those people then?
Because they didn't actually want to sell. They basically listed it so it would be listed. They tried to play me basically. They listed it.
Don't play Cyrene.
Yeah, don't. I don't like it. But they listed it in order to stall a divorce order.
Oh.
So they had an order to sell because they were getting divorced, but they didn't really want to move out. So they would list it and then make it impossible to show and stuff like that.
Oh, I thought they would list it just to see what they could get for it.
Some people will do that, but I prefer, for you to tell me like, hey, if you want to play games, like tell me what game we're playing, and then I will decide whether or not I would like to participate in said game. If you don't want to play games and you do want to get your house sold, you need to call me 1-800-440-7566. Things are, so back to this voicemail. I want to finish this. So here's what can happen. They can still hold the listing. So if you tell them, look, I don't want to list anymore, I changed my mind, they can cancel it. They can send you a cancellation. They might ask you, hey, look, I need you to reimburse me for my marketing costs. They might ask for that. Do you have to do that? No. If it's not in the contract, no. But they may ask you for that. They may say, no, I'm not canceling the listing, no way. But in that case, typically what they'll do is they withdraw it from the market. When it's in a withdrawn status on the MLS, when you have a withdrawn listing, you can't sign with somebody else until that's actually canceled because they still hold the listing.
It feels a little dirty.
It's not, because you signed a contract and hired someone to do the job, right? So, but usually what happens when people do that is they're basically being, it depends, but they're kind of like petty, I guess is the word.
Okay.
So, but I guess it depends on the relationship that was had with the seller and what they experienced on their side too. So, you know.
So basically what I'm getting is love your agent, sign, and let them do their job.
Yes.
And if you aren't serious, don't waste their time.
Yeah. And if they're not doing a good job, you can always contact their broker. And what you can do is, because the brokerage is the one who actually holds the listing. So you can call the broker and you can tell the broker, look, I'm not happy with this agent. I don't think they're doing a good job. I don't think they're fairly representing me, whatever the case may be. And the broker can assign you a new agent. You can have the broker help you. Like you can, there is a solution without having to necessarily cancel this contract. And if you really feel adamantly about it, call the broker, ask the broker for the cancellation, because most times they're not, what are they gonna do? Like, this is what I tell them, like, what am I gonna do? Hold you hostage? That's a waste of my time and it's a waste of my energy. And I don't feel like being a petty person who's gonna hold you hostage. If this relationship isn't working out, then you know what I mean. But personally, I would much rather save the relationship than the listing.
Right, because you make clients for life.
I do. Yes, I do.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Well, I think we answered that question, but I want to touch on one other thing that you've mentioned before in previous shows, and everybody can go back to your previous shows and
Yes.
see them on. You have a podcast, YouTube. On
Instagram, TV.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They're
YouTube.
everywhere. Cyrene Properties.
Yeah, go
So-
subscribe to my YouTube, guys. I'm not feeling the love on the YouTube. Everybody's on Instagram now. Go subscribe, like my videos. I would
Everyone loves
appreciate
you.
it.
Come on, I love you. Okay, so my question is, you've mentioned down payment assistance before. How does one, like a new time home buyer, get something like that?
Okay, so down payment assistance.
And we have like 3 minutes, so make it snappy.
Snappy. So first and foremost, I just want to say there is no free house. So if you're listening today and you want a free house, I don't want to be the one to make you sad, but I'm going to be real with you. There is no such thing as a free house. So a lot of people that want down payment assistance, they are thinking, okay, I'm going to be able to get a house without any money out of pocket. That is not the case, because you will still have closing costs. So I will say to people, make sure you have at least 3% of whatever the purchase price is going to be to purchase a house, whether you get down payment assistance or not. Okay? Because you're going to have closing costs. You should have that amount of money available.
But if you didn't get assistance with down payment, you would tell someone to still have 3% or more.
So there is a program through one of my lenders where you can do 3% down. It doesn't have any mortgage insurance. And for those of you who don't know what mortgage insurance is a fee charged by the bank, basically because anytime you put less than 20% down. The fee is
called PMI, right?
Yeah, the fee is to basically insure the bank against you defaulting because you don't have that much skin in the game, so to speak, because you only put 3% down. So defaulting, you're gonna, let's say it's 400,000, you're gonna lose 12 grand. The bank's gonna lose, the rest. Yeah. So, anyways, this loan program is 3% down. There's no mortgage insurance. There's no fees. You can go up to 55% of your debt to income ratio. And you only need a 620 FICO score.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
It is fantastic. And sometimes they can also give you some credits towards your closing costs, which is also super helpful. And they'll even give you a loan after you close escrow for $5,000 for like furniture and stuff. It's like, I think the rate's like 4%. Don't quote me on rates because I can't quote rates, but
well, they fluctuate so often.
And they fluctuate, but I think the rate's around 4% for the $5,000. So if you want to buy furniture or whatever, you can do that.
Wow, that's interesting. And then on a loan like that, would your interest rate be higher than a regular conventional loan?
Not this particular program. In fact, guys, I just kind of want to give a shout out to this program because, okay, here's what it is. It's called a CRA loan, which is part of the Community Reinvestment Act. And what happens is if banks don't do enough of these loans per year, they get hit hard from the IRS. So they do need to do these loans. This is a portfolio program through a particular bank, which I'm not going to tell you. If you want to find out, I'm your new agent, 1-800-440-7566. There's not a lot of agents who know about these programs, this particular one. So it's a conventional loan. It's not FHA. It's not a government loan. It's straight from the bank. But these CRA loans right now, this particular bank, if you are a person of color, call me because this bank needs, they haven't done enough lending to people of color.
Okay.
So if you
This is a great tip. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, this particular bank hasn't done enough. So it's an Asian bank, so a lot of their loans have gone to Caucasians and Asians. So if you're anything other than that, please call me because they can call you anyways. But I have the ridiculous hookup right now, and I think it's super important, especially right now, not to get political, but to empower our communities and,
sure,
and put people in homes.
Power to the people. Now, is this a program that ends at a certain time or no?
There's no end date as of right now.
Okay, so that was a good tip.
Mm-hmm.
If you're thinking about buying a home, I definitely would contact Cyrene and get the hookup and have her show you the ropes because there's no one that I'd want, to walk me through this real estate transaction than you.
Yeah, and I do have a lot of experience with first-time buyers. They're right there in my heart. I've partnered with some nonprofits that help, first-time buyers and stuff like that. And that's how I got my first house. Was I was working with a nonprofit. I went through the nonprofit to get my first house. So as far as someone who knows about these programs and what you can and can't get and what's smoke and mirrors and what's not, because truth be told, a lot of these programs, they say down payment assistance, you're going to pay for it some way or another.
Right, nothing's free.
Nothing's ever free, no.
All right, guess what time it is?
Time to wrap up.
Yes, it is. So I just want to tell all you listeners out there, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Cyrene's going to wrap it up, but you can do it. You can buy that house. You can get into your dream house. You can get into your first home. You can sell your home. Call Cyrene and she'll make it happen. I guarantee it.
I do too. So next week we're going to be talking about, I think solar is happening next week.
Yeah, that's a big hot topic right now.
It really is. So if you thought about putting solar on your home or you're, not sure what it even is or whatever, we're going to cover all that next week. Tune in 8 a.m. Sunday morning right here on Go Country 105. You guys make it a great day.